Hey there, Mini Constant Worlds is a podcast following the meta disjointed journey through the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. I'm Kat, she, her.
I'm Taryn, they, them, and I cannot play the triangle or pop and lock. Those are not amongst my talents.
Yet.
No. Ever, probably.
So apparently trying is also not amongst your talents.
No.
Okay.
No, that's why I still have an Irish drum in my closet. I feel like that's a big step from the triangle straight to Irish drum.
I would say so, yeah.
I know it has a name. I know that I can neither remember nor pronounce that name, so...
How many W's is in that name?
None. I think that one's got a lot of C's.
Oh, okay. Well, I finished reading Misery, and those of you who joined me also finished reading Misery, I hope, which should have covered Part 3 titled Paul and Part 4 titled Goddess. Part 4 is really short.
That's amazing.
Trigger warning for anybody who, is unsure as we proceed with this, or if this is your first time here.
I'm so sorry if this is your first time here.
Yeah, no, I don't know if this is the best entry, but I'm happy you're here. Regardless of trigger warnings, we very much support taking care of your own mental health. So the trigger warnings that I have for this book and kind of thusly this episode, so we have graphic torture, body horror, mental illness, physical abuse, substance abuse, medical trauma, gaslighting, confinement, emotional abuse, and suicidal thoughts. If you have any additional concerns, I would definitely recommend hopping online. Storygraph is a great place to check out. Other readers have pegged various things that they found triggering.
That's why I sat this book out.
Yeah.
And we cannot suggest enough, if this is not for you, don't do it.
No, don't do it. Just go ahead and skip this one.
We'll tell you about it.
Yeah.
We'll make weird jokes about it.
Yeah.
Well, Kat will tell you about it. I sat this one out. I have to get told about it.
So I will tell about it, and Taryn will make jokes about it.
Yeah. I'm definitely hyper today. There's going to be jokes.
Yep. So Part 3 begins with a section of Misery's Return, and as I mentioned, last episode, I have a little trouble reading through the Misery's Return chapters. It's just not a book.
Yeah, I'm not shocked. I don't, those are not your kind of books to begin with. Like Victorian romance.
Yeah.
Love triangles are
sordid romance.
How graphic is the sordid romance?
I'm of the impression, in the other books, it sounds like it's quite graphic, but since she's dead for a lot of this book, I don't think they're getting into it too much.
Do you think Stephen King just wrote those portions? Because this book is meant to be the response to people bitching about Eyes of the Dragon. Do you think he just wrote that to be I will write whatever the fuck I want to? And
honestly, yes.
Fantastic.
I really do, because there's also a discussion in this section about, where Paul kind of has to, admit, the reason he hates Misery so much is because nobody takes him seriously as a writer, which I fucking hate that shit. I don't care what anybody writes. It's hard work. You go out there and write your own damn book, then.
I'm sorry, he named her Misery. That's his own fault. Do you know how many other names... he could have... Tiffany is people can't name their Victorian and earlier characters Tiffany, even though that's a name. That was a name then, because people won't take it seriously enough. But if he had wanted to, he could have gone with that. He went with Misery. He made that choice.
That's fair. Misery's no Aunt Tiffany.
God damn it, I was trying not to say
then you should have used the example of Tiffany.
Named her Aunt Tiffany. I was trying so hard not to go down the gemstone path again.
We always go down the gemstone path. Danny McBride, we love you.
If you haven't watched Righteous Gemstones yet.
Why?
Well, they might not have Max.
Oh, that's fair. You should get Max just long enough to watch Gemstones.
Or get a peg leg, if you catch my drift. Get you an eye patch. Our Flag Means Death is on there too, so
yeah.
Join the crew.
There's a
watch
lot
it
of good
that
shit
way.
on there, actually. We are not sponsored by Max, but
No.
I mean, if you guys want to give us free Max subscriptions to promote you.
If they don't, I was gonna say, if they don't have Max already, why would they give up? But if you mean Max itself.
Yeah, Max themselves.
I refuse. Since they changed the name, and also because, what's his name? David Zaslav, or whatever, is that the dude who runs it now?
I have no idea.
He's such a prick.
He is such a prick.
I don't want their fucking blood money.
Yep, and see, we don't approve of the people behind it, and yet we still love Max.
Danny McBride is amazing.
Danny McBride is amazing, and Gemstones is just, like, straight up my comfort show at this point. I don't know how many times we've watched through the first 2 seasons.
Yeah. I also really like The Gilded Age, which is also on there. Yeah. It's by the people who did Downton Abbey, which I have not watched.
Is that on purpose to avoid addiction, or because it's just not your jam?
You know, I think I just forget about it a lot. And then I know there's like a lot of deaths and whatnot that will hurt me inside.
That's fair.
And I just can't. I'm not ready to love and lose that way.
Fair.
But The Gilded Age is great. Oh God, why can't I remember her name? She's amazing. She's the best. Why is it leaving me? The one that I always say that you would love if you would sit and watch
what's her
it.
name? Is like Blazinski or something like that?
Catherine Baranski.
Baranski, okay, yeah.
Catherine Baranski? Christine Baranski.
Yeah.
God damn.
I couldn't remember the first name. I'm like, I think it starts with a C, but...
Yeah, Christine Baranski is in it. She's a dream. It's a great show.
She's just a great actress.
She's so, like, snarky and wonderful in it. It's yeah. I realize we're not here to talk about this, and I don't care.
You know what? We are just having our own fan moments here.
Get Max. Watch everything.
Watch everything.
Or join the Our Flag Means Death crew and watch it all that way. I hope you get what because I'm trying not to outwardly say, because that would be condoning.
No, we're not condoning nothing.
No.
Anywho, so he's writing a section of Misery Returns and the T falls off the typewriter.
So now he doesn't have an N or a T?
Yep, he has no N and he has no T. We also get a random and kind of
I feel like on a typewriter, it's like levers that are the keys, and this has bothered me since you first told me there's no N.
He explains it in this time how the T, like what happens with the letters, like literally the arms fall out.
Okay.
Because like he hears it like rattling around or something, he has to like knock it out. Because it's gonna get worse before it gets better. Anywho, so there's kind of a confusing reference to him not having a thumb. I legitimately thought I missed something and started like looking back. I was like, I'm pretty sure she just chopped off his foot at the end of the last part. Now suddenly he doesn't have a thumb either. It ends up getting explained later, but if you also had that moment, you were not alone of feeling like you've missed a really important point. It wasn't very important, but still. So part of this entire scene is that Paul is thinking about how he normally would have complained about the typewriter to Annie, but he's very broken of her now. He's very afraid of her. And then we go back into Misery's Return. And again,
sorry.
Yeah. This is a very long section. There's stuff with, like, going to Africa to try and revive her. She's, like, covered in bees. There's racial slurs.
Not the bees.
That's the secret behind the Cards Against Humanity card. Bees? It's a reference to Misery.
Oh, God.
The section of the book is, like, not my jam. They do start talking about, like, the goddess and idols and things like that within the book, which is why I'm positive it has a lot to do with Paul's current situation. But whatever the deeper meaning was, I have to say I probably missed it because I wasn't reading it that closely. And then he loses an E. Well, the only E that he has.
So he can no longer type the end.
Yeah. He can't type the word net or 10 or teen.
I hate this I really hate this.
It's fair.
It also really feels not real. Like, why is this typewriter just falling apart?
It's very old. It's like, it was already an antique typewriter when he got it.
And also, he can't type it, but couldn't he just, like, put a space where those letters are and then write them in?
That's what he's been doing with the missing N, and then that's what he had planned to do with the missing T, but when the E came off, he was kind of like, okay, I now have, like, the 3 most used letters not accessible to me anymore.
He can't.
And he decides he's going to shift to just writing it longhand at this point because...
Yeah.
He's running out of letters.
Yeah.
And he does kind of also come to terms with the fact that he's been using writing the book as his escape from reality, which no real shocker there. I would do it too. And he kind of describes like writing as this like hole on the page that he sort of falls through, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting.
And he kind of acknowledges and repeats a few times that he is not just Scheherazade for Annie, but for himself. These chapters that he's churning out are the only thing getting him to the next day. And we do finally find out what happened to his thumb. Apparently, Annie had come around looking for details about the book, and he told her no. About a week later, he complained about the typewriter, and Annie took an electric knife to his thumb.
But you need that for writing.
I think it's his left thumb, and it seems like he's also probably right-handed.
No, that's fine, but you still need that for... Like, that was... Like, you'd think she would have just taken, like, the big toe on the other foot. But, okay.
Yep, she went for his thumb. And one thing that I thought was really interesting as we're continuing to go through this, he's actually talking about grief over character death, which... I know that's something you and I have talked about.
Yeah.
And how very rarely it is respected. And Paul recalls his friend Gary Rudman's depression over a character who died. And thought at the time that his friend's response was pretentiously arty.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Paul's a dick. I don't fucking like Paul. And he had actually believed this up until 1983, which is like a few years prior, because I'm pretty sure... This book is actively set in 87, but I could be wrong. It could be 84. But either way, up until...
Some point before this.
Yeah. In 83, when he read this book called The World According to Garp, and I guess a character dies in that, he acknowledged that there was this odd mania that comes from people connecting with a work of fiction where they legitimately experience a form of grief. He also recalls when he read Lord of the Flies as a kid, and he kind of experienced it then too, which I can't blame him. I fucking love that book, and it also gave me character death grief. And I think that if anybody understands that, this house is a solid house for not liking character death.
No, for sure. I think it's that feeling of seeing yourself reflected. Well, I think also... I don't know about you, but I definitely had periods of time as a kid where I didn't have many friends. I had books, so I had my friends in books. So when they died, it's like losing a friend. But I can also say I think it comes back to that idea of seeing yourself reflected. You know, authors write themselves into works, but once you have the work in your hand, I think very much you find yourself in it. And so seeing, somebody die, I think when you connect so hard with a character, you're seeing yourself to a degree, or something that you want in yourself, like character traits that you wish you had, or just something, there's something that you wish that you did reflect, or that you want to have. And so when that character dies, I think that maybe that to me seems like probably where a lot of that grief comes from, because it's not like I think they're real.
Yeah.
Though I will say, I feel like Stephen King blurs that line a lot of like, are they? Did it happen? Or he likes to play with that a little bit. Disclaimer, I do not believe that any of Stephen King's characters are real. But I do think that he likes to play with the...
Yeah, no, I think it's fair. I think it's very fair. You have a solid point. You are connecting with something. And it is something about yourself, even if it's like, oh, this person really reminds me of this person in my life, it's still because something to do with you.
Yeah.
You know, possible spoilers here. I doubt I'm not going to try and do spoilers, but I just finished Final Fantasy 16, and it kind of helped me get over the emotional destruction of 15. I was fucked up after that game. God, that game literally destroyed me because, so much awful stuff happens to those guys. The end of that. It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's tough to talk about this because of spoilers for things that are coming later.
Yeah.
Because those are the things that I connect with the idea of grief over character death.
Okay.
And grief over the way that Stephen King will play with this idea later in the Dark Tower series. You can tell that it's personal.
Yeah.
And you can also tell that it's something that he, again, the same way that he toys with the idea of, like, blurring the line between real and fiction. Like, if we're not talking about stuff that comes later, I can't say it. But
that's fair.
That was probably my first real... Some of the stuff that happens is probably my first real interaction with characters who I was deeply connected with, suddenly no longer being there and being like, what the fuck, author? How dare you? How dare you make me feel and then make me feel another way?
I'm looking forward to hearing about that, and we can circle back to this a little bit then, too.
Yeah.
Because I do think it's a big thing to talk about.
Yeah, we won't have a choice. I will make you. Don't worry.
No. That's fair. And I think that it does, and this has nothing to do with, like, at least future stuff that happens within the Dark Towers.
Yeah.
But I know, like, in the intro letters to the Gunslinger, he was talking about how he got people asking him, when are you going to finish this? And he mentioned a story of an old woman who was, like, holding out for the Dark Tower books.
Yeah.
So by this point, he's probably already getting at least a few questions about, like, are you going to continue with any of that? And I do believe, like, Paul even mentions an old woman who had, like, died right after getting a book, after somebody had, like, finished reading it to her. So it's wild, especially because, like, I have, like, grief after a book series ends. Because, like, the Nightside series, when that ended, I loved that final book. It was really well done, but it's kind of a bittersweet thing because it's like, I don't actually want to finish this book.
It's interesting because if you look at a series like A Song of Fire and Ice, which also kills characters very easily.
Yeah.
And is unfinished many years later. And there's a question, not so much of people who are holding out, but whether or not the author will hold out.
Yeah.
To the end. I have not read the books. I watched the whole, yet again, we come back to HBO. I watched the whole HBO series, which was great till they ran out of source material.
House of the Dragon's amazing, though.
Oh my God, House of the Dragon. We have to start another podcast. That's a totally different conversation.
God, that show's so good.
Shout out to non-binary representation in media. I think, obviously, there are a lot of people who are dying to get the last books of that.
Yeah.
But I wonder if there would be that feeling of, like, bittersweetness once it's over. So if he were to kind of shuffle off this mortal coil with it unfinished, that would suck, but there'd always kind of be... I don't know, though, because as long as he's around, you get to have that feeling of, like, it's coming. Like, to quote South Park, the dragons are coming. They're coming eventually.
You have something to look forward to.
Exactly, but if it ever ends, or if he ever ends, it's over.
Well, and you know what's interesting with that is that Robert Jordan, who did the Wheel of Time series, I believe he died before he reached the end of his. And Brandon Sanderson actually had to finish it out. So I'm curious, like, what people say about that, because that is a great example of what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the Wheel of Time. It's on my TBR, but it's still TB'd.
Or Dune, which kind of was finished, but then when Frank Herbert, like, died, then Brian Herbert has now continued on, and as far as I understand it, like, it's still pretty good. Like, Henry Zabrowski likes it, and that's good enough for me. Like, he is the Rudooner, and he approves. So if he says it's good, it must be fine. I still haven't made it through the second Dune book. The first Dune book is a trip.
It is.
But the second one was...
Part of me wants to, like, reread it. But I also don't know.
I don't want to put myself through that.
Yeah, that's, I think a lot of it.
I can't wait for the second movie, though.
Yeah.
It looks really good.
I think the first one's still on Max.
I can confirm.
I swear to God, no one has given us any money. We just watch a lot of shows.
We watch things that aren't... I was watching Prime. Like, it was on Prime before we started this. I was watching The Boys. It's not on Max.
Okay, anywho.
They could make more Dark Tower media and put that on Max.
They could, yeah.
But they won't, because they've been trying for years. I'm just trying to bring it back.
Yep. So, anyways, a young cop does show up at the property. The book repeats several times that the cop is young. If you think he's old, you're wrong.
I do need to know, was the cop of age, or was he a younger individual?
They were estimating him at like 23 or something.
Oh no. He'll never do his job. Young people don't work.
So Paul struggles to force himself to scream at first because he is afraid of Annie, and he knows, like, at this point, like, if shit goes wrong, he doesn't have a thumb anymore.
I don't know. This cop's, like, young. He probably will be seduced by Annie.
But he does...
Wait, did you just say he won't scream because he doesn't have a thumb anymore?
No, he's scared, and I'm using the thumb as, like, this is why, because he keeps getting body parts chopped off.
The foot he was good with, but once he lost the thumb, that was just the end.
I don't know so much that as much as, like, he now knows that she's not gonna stop. She'll just keep lobbing off body parts.
Just keep piecing him out.
I think really he just wants to keep his penis.
I'm shocked she hasn't gone for that yet.
They do discuss that she thought about it.
I shouldn't have pried. I shouldn't have pushed. I didn't want to know.
But anyways, so he does finally manage to scream, and the cop kind of seems like maybe he heard something, but he didn't really look in the direction he needed to. So Paul threw an ashtray out the window to get his attention.
Why does this feel like the live action Cinderella, where she's like singing in the window and that's how they find her?
We don't talk about Cinderella.
Either one. I liked the live action one.
I didn't. I didn't like the live action one. And when we rewatched the animated one, it was so much worse than I remember.
It made me like the live action one a lot more. She was so sassy. Not the live action one. The cartoon one. The cartoon one was really sassy.
The cartoon one was a bitch.
We are full of beans today.
Yeah,
we're at least 3/4 beans today.
We're having a good time.
Yeah, no, for real.
So he throws the ashtray. The cop does, like, realize where he is, and he's actually out looking for Paul. So he's like, "Oh, hey, it's you!"
Oh my god, this is more and more like Cinderella. I've searched the whole kingdom. I don't know, the guy I'm looking for has 2 feet, and you only have 1, and I think he's got both his thumbs.
Paul tries to warn the cop because Annie is coming up from behind at him, and he's a young cop. He's not paying enough attention. I don't know.
He doesn't know how to use peripheral vision or his instincts.
So Annie ends up stabbing him with a cross she had made for her dead cow that she'd buried.
What? No. How much do you know about Salem's Lot?
Just that it's vampires.
Yeah, it's vampires, and she's stabbing this dude with a cross.
Yeah.
I read Salem's Lot such a long time ago. I don't remember if that's how they kill any of the vampires, but I wouldn't be shocked.
Okay.
I'm positive they have to stake them because they're classic vampires. Like, they're scary vampires, they're old style vampires, and she's stabbing this dude with a cross. She's stabbing a cop with a cross, and the cops are involved in Salem's Lot. I know we're not there yet, but because I don't remember it right, I don't feel like it's a spoiler because I could be so wrong.
No, that's fair.
But that's so in the 5th Dark Tower book, Wolves of the Kaya. I think it's Kaya,
Okay.
but it could be Kala. I'm so sorry.
We're going to get the audiobooks when we get closer here.
Fantastic.
Someone's going to say these words for us.
So Father Callahan comes in. He's from Salem's Lot. He's one of the main characters of Salem's Lot. And then he is in Midworld, All World. I get those mixed up.
I think it's All World.
Yeah, I think our world is Midworld and their world is All World, but it could be the other way around. I always forget.
You know what? That's why we're gonna find out.
Yeah,
I'm taking notes. I figure you might take notes too. I don't know.
I have notes for when we're talking that are just like next to me, and then I take audio notes that I send you sometimes.
Yeah. So
I just so everyone's aware, I have very severe ADHD. Just painfully severe ADHD. I do my best. The fact that I'm here at all is a fucking miracle. Anyways, no. Father Callahan, he had to fight the vampires. Mm-hmm. I would be shocked if there's not a single cross staking, but I'm almost positive that is triggering such a memory inside of me. I had read it because I was super into Anne Rice at the time. I was like, ooh, more vampires. Then I'm like, no, these are spooky vampires. These are scary vampires. I don't want this. But it's great. Salem's Lot is amazing.
It's the one I think I'm probably the most looking forward to reading
you
right
have
now.
Such a long time before we get there. I'm so sorry.
I know. It sucks. It's the one that I really want to read.
It's gonna be years.
But
because it's so far away.
I accept my fate. I guess I could technically read it early because it's not like I haven't read The Shining or Desperation.
Yeah.
If I really, really get desperate, I could read it.
The problem is I think The Stand is between us and it.
Which I am kind of into reading The Stand. I'm scared of reading The Stand.
No, that's the problem.
That's because of its length.
Exactly. I'm excited for The Stand as well, but it's going to take so long.
Yeah.
That Yeah. We'll talk about it. I think if you're this excited for Salem's Lot, that might need to be just a fun read that you do on the side and just get it in early. Because
I've already waited years to read it. I'm sure I could wait a little longer.
I feel like it's going to be at least that long.
If some of these people could wait for the end of the Dark Tower series, I'm sure I can hold out a little longer before reading Salem's Lot, but we'll see.
We'll see
if everybody else is better than me.
But I do think it's interesting that we have yet another death, because I'm pretty sure Salem's Lot also came out before Misery.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think Salem's Lot was another one that was right in that run with Carrie and Cujo, and
I do believe it is older. I'm just not sure exactly when.
Yeah.
We can find that out though.
Yeah, I think it'd be worth it.
So she stakes the cop in the back with the cross. Somehow this dude survived that though. He manages to survive this particular attack.
He's a vampire.
I doubt it.
He's just young and virile.
So Annie goes away and the cop starts trying to crawl. away, and Annie starts coming for him. She's back on her lawnmower now, though, and he's trying to get under his cruiser, but he doesn't make it. Annie gets to him first with the lawnmower. It's a riding lawnmower.
Do you think that's a reference to something like Christine?
I kind of wondered.
Or even Cujo, because it shreds him up. I feel like probably more like Christine.
Yeah.
I don't know, though. I don't know.
Anyways, Annie tells Paul that he is the one at fault for the young cop who died. Now she's got to clean up the mess, and it's all Paul's fault, because if he had just stayed quiet, she wouldn't have had to kill him. And that really stands out to Paul. He starts honestly, like, thinking that he is responsible for this cop's death. And I guess depending on how you look at it, if he had stayed quiet, the cop probably wouldn't have died. But Annie's still the one doing the murder.
It's also very, like, kidnapped person.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you're there for a long time.
Yes. And there was one thing that he thought at himself, I guess, that really had stood out to me when he's looking at her. She's getting ready to go and, like, start cleaning up the mess. And she's, like, grinning at him. And he said, from the book, it says, he saw conscious evil in it, a demon capering behind her eyes. He's described Annie as, like, a demon, a goddess, an idol, and something that can infect others.
Yeah.
So just the very nature of Annie seems like she's something.
Yeah.
Because he very much doesn't tend to talk about her like she's human. Like she's a person very often.
And that, I feel like, could be a symptom of being kidnapped and mutilated.
Yeah.
But I feel like in this bigger, like, overarching world, that's really interesting.
Yeah. It feels important.
It feels really important. Because I remember one of the Carrie movies, the mom says something about the night that Carrie is, like, conceived, that the dad had come home and seemed, like, possessed or something when he, like, took her or something.
Yeah.
And, like, Carrie gets conceived. And that's interesting, too. Obviously, we'll get there. We're going to get there. But I think this idea of, like, this evil that's constantly, like, spreading and infecting.
Yeah. Well, especially because, like, when you get to things like the Overlook, which we know is nearby, it's closer to them than it is to us, like, because they're already in Colorado. Yeah. And if Andrew was supposed to, even if his lie was just that he was doing these sketches, regardless of whether or not that was true, it was close enough that lie would check out in Sidewinder.
It was famous enough that somebody cared.
Yeah.
Somebody cared to want. I feel like that's being here. We talked about the fact that we're in Reno.
Yeah.
That I feel like that's like being here and being like, oh, I had to do something up in Virginia City at one of the, like, haunted saloons or something.
Exactly.
Like, it's
a close proximity. It's famous. Like, Annie knew what the Overlook was.
Yeah.
So I don't know what things are going on in Colorado. it's all the mountains.
I want to go though now. Not as much as I want to go to Maine. I need to know what's going on in Maine.
Annie plans to dispose of the cruiser and the body. In order to do this, she takes Paul down to the cellar, leaves him down. Like, her plan is to leave him down there so she can go and take care of shit. But because someone's already come sniffing around, and obviously someone's going to come looking for this cop, she does not want Paul upstairs because she wants to be able to turn out all the lights. And this way he can't possibly, like, yell or throw another ashtray or anything else out a window. Yeah. And they talk a little bit. Annie's asking him a little bit about the book because she is still, similarly to in part 2, where she's suicidal, she is still kind of on this trek, and she's being very upfront that when this is over, it's over for them both. Like, it doesn't sound like she intends to keep going herself.
Which is so strange, because he found her big book of murder.
Yeah.
She's obviously done this, or the implication is that she's done this many other times, but something about him is so important that this is the one that she's done now.
Yeah.
Which is interesting,
It
I think.
is. Paul does reveal to her that there are 2 possible outcomes for Misery's return. One of the endings is sad, and one holds out some hope for the future. Annie does make a joke of, "You're not planning on killing her again, are you?" And Paul basically says no, but he does think that she's going to because he thinks the one that holds out hope for the future, I believe, is the one that's most likely to happen. But she doesn't quite understand how much he just does not have planned. And I think a lot of people don't. If you haven't sat down to write,
Yeah.
you don't necessarily know how, even if you had the most meticulous plan, sometimes something goes very wrong. And now you're someplace entirely different. So Annie preps to leave, and she's got him set up with, like, some Pepsi. I don't know if Pepsi paid to Stephen King. There's a lot of Pepsis dropped.
I think Stephen King just really likes Stephen King feels about Pepsi how we feel about Max, apparently. Which I only say because that's also a thing in The Dark Tower. Like, Roland ends up trying a Pepsi. Like, it's gonna come up. I think Stephen King just really likes Pepsi. I don't know. I could be wrong. He doesn't like Coke, maybe? I don't know. Or maybe he was just getting paid under the table by Pepsi. Maybe it's a main thing. I don't know. I still haven't been there.
Well, either way, she leaves them with some drinks. She does intend to take a Pepsi and put the cop's, like, handprint on it so that she can pass off this story that he showed up. He looked tired and hot, so she gave him a drink, and then he left. So it makes sense why her fingerprints are on it. His fingerprints are on it, and so when they find whatever they find of him, there's an explanation.
They're not going to just fingerprint the place if they don't have a reason. Like, they're not going to just be like, you know what? It looks like he was here. Fingerprint it. Just fingerprint. They fingerprint crime scenes. They don't just... That's
Yeah.
whatever.
She tells Paul that she's going to leave him down here, and it might take her a while to get back because she can drive the cruiser to where she intends to ditch it, but she's going to have to bike back to the farm.
That's incredible. Ding ding. Just a murderer on a bike. Ding ding.
Hey, however you got to get around.
No, for sure. Like, stranger things have happened, but also, that's gonna leave, like, she might leave bike tracks because you're gonna have to bike, and I don't like this.
Well, and I will be upfront. I could be telling her plan wrong. I'm
sure
giving the
you're
highlights.
not. I don't think that you are. I think that it's just not a good plan, and it's in a book, so it doesn't matter.
Well, and she's pretty convinced, like, we've got a ticking clock now. It's only going to be a matter of time. More people are going to show up. We are on a time limit now, Paul. You got to finish this book.
She's probably not. Well, she's not incorrect about the ticking clock. She killed a cop.
Yeah.
People care about those.
And she's fully aware of that. That's why, like, she's just like, if you want to finish this book, if you don't want me to take care of things earlier, you gotta get on it.
I don't think he cares. She wants the book finished. Like,
he does too, and that's the thing. That's part of what he also keeps saying. Is like, well, I want to see it in too. And now he's admitting that he wants to see it in.
Does she not know that there's, like, an editing phase then, and that it has to go into rewrites once he gets to the final page, and, like...
Since no one else is ever going to see this book, it's personal for her. Like, she was planning on binding it herself and everything.
It's not actually going to be finished. It's not it's like a fucking... She was so mad about the one book because it was bad, but she's fine with this shit just being first draft.
Yes.
Spelling errors and everything because he doesn't have an end key.
Well, Paul does want to, like, keep writing because he's like, hey, can you bring me a notepad? I'll just keep writing down here. And she tells him no because she can't turn on the light. If the cellar light is on, that's going to be weird. And that will possibly draw attention if anybody comes by.
Yeah, I guess he's just going to have to dissociate like the rest of us.
Yep, so he gets to sit in the dark in the cellar with the rats. So while he is down there, he does see the barbecue pit. The one where he had to burn his fast cars. And he starts to kind of form a plan.
Every time I hear the title of that, all I hear is that fucking song in my head. It's like, you got a fast car. I don't think it was out yet.
I'm not sure. I don't think it was either. I feel like that's a 90s song.
So is that song based on? Be hilarious if it was.
So it's Tracy Chapman?
Yes! I could not. My name made it as far as the TR, and then it just kept short-circuiting because it just kept playing parts of the song in my head.
We also love Tracy Chapman.
Yes. Yeah. Shout out to Tracy Chapman. I know you're listening. Because I know that you're a Stephen King fan now. I've put together the pieces. Charlie Day meme style.
So one thing we also find out is that Paul wasn't necessarily scared of like the dark and the rats. He actually was more afraid of the cop zombifying coming back. Because like I think for now, because like she was going to take care of the cruiser first, and then she was going to deal with the body. She had like shoved the body out in the barn.
So he was scared of Pet Sematary.
Yes, because like he's like afraid that the cop is gonna like crawl his way over, liquefy itself, and go down into the cellar with
He's
him.
also scared of the Terminator.
It wouldn't
That
be.
was not Stephen King.
So, and then like coming for him because Paul is responsible for his death. At least that is how he is associating it, and this is a great kind of foreshadowing moment because he's obviously having a trauma vision here.
Yeah.
But anywho, so he does see the grill where he had to burn all of his shit, and he starts to hatch this plan because he had previously been kind of like remembering rock music earlier in the
Just
chapter.
thinking about it.
Yeah, like he was missing it. He was like missing
fair.
like listening to rock music. Because, you know, it's crazy the things that you miss when you like don't have them for a long time.
Does he know he could sing it to himself? Like he doesn't have to just think about it?
Maybe he's a bad singer and he doesn't want to hear
Like
his
he
own
could
voice.
sing Tracy Chapman to himself?
Lyrics specifically from the Tramps, which I'm not sure. I'm assuming maybe it's a real band. I would be shocked if they weren't.
It sounds like I think it is.
But the line, burn the mother down. That is where he gets his idea for what's going to come next. So Annie does come back, and she had made it clear before she left that they are on a short time limit. He's got to finish this book because people are going to start showing up, and finally they are eventually going to come in. And she makes it very clear to him, like, she's got a gun, and if people try to take her, she's gonna shoot them, shoot him, and then shoot herself. She's not going quietly. She intends to just murder, suicide everybody.
I just don't understand why he has to go. Like, if she's gonna kill herself, like, I ain't going to jail. That's fine, but like, why do I have to go, lady?
I don't know. I don't know why there is no scenario in which Paul doesn't have to go with her, but Paul has to go with her.
It feels a little bit like the Overlook, like because it was the same kind of concept.
Yeah.
Of like, no, I'm taking
take you too.
Yeah. And but it's also a little bit of like, you belong to me and only me. And it does feel that way through the whole thing of like, you are mine, this is mine, and only for me. There will be none of you left for anybody else. And then I'm going to, because I know that this can't, like, this cannot feasibly keep going.
Yeah.
To this point, she's murdered people who were kind of inconsequential.
Yeah.
But now she's taken somebody who the world will miss. And she knows that. And it's like, no, I'm going to keep you. Like, and then we are going to die together because no one else will ever have you.
Yeah.
You belong to me. Your work belongs to me. You belong to me. And we're going out together.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit like that. But it also feels, because what happened, like, and I wonder when we get to the actual book of The Shining, how it will be written out. Because the movie felt similar.
Yeah.
Where he just started to kind of feel that way of like, no, like this shit is mine. Like,
yeah.
And I do with it what I want. But also like that like he had a weird paranoia with him too. I think that him having actually consulted with mental health professionals makes this feel a lot more real. But maybe he did that for The Shining. I don't know. We'll have to actually read it.
Yep, that's fair.
So
with the missing cop and everything, that's why they have this ticking time bomb. She gets Paul back upstairs. not knowing that he apparently smuggled lighter fluid in his pants. He says that, like, had her hands been just a little higher, because, like, she's piggybacking him. He's, like, you know, arms around her neck from the back, and then she's piggybacking him.
She made that situation for herself. I don't feel bad for her.
Yeah. So if her hands had been a little higher, she'd have felt the canister of lighter fluid.
I hope she heard her back.
He got lucky, though, because she did not find it, and he was able to successfully hide it in his room as well. And missing cop brings more cops. Shocker. Paul stays quiet this time, though. He ends up identifying the 2 cops that show up, because now they're going in twos. As, you know, the single cop did not come back. The 2 that roll up, he ends up naming them David and Goliath, because one is a big dude and one is, like, a smaller dude. And that is his designation for them.
I know if Mice and Men had been published by now. We did, like, whatever. It's fine.
The guys come in, they talk to Annie. They come actually really close to the room that Paul is in, but they end up leaving before they find him. And Paul is staying quiet this entire time because he knows Annie has the previous cop's gun and is ready to take everybody out.
There's 2 of them, and no way that they're definitely armed.
He kind of thinks to himself, like, there is a chance that they could take her, but he wants to take her out now. Now it's personal.
Yeah, rather than the 2 trained officers who are definitely armed. The dude with no thumb and no foot.
Who's done a great job this far, right?
Yeah, you know what? Books.
Annie is also surprised that he doesn't say something. Like, she even says, you know, they'd have had me. Like, why did you stay quiet?
You told me to. I was being a good boy, and now you're mad. Now you are the most fickle bitch.
I do believe he gives her some crap about, like, well, I really want to finish this story. Annie at this point is so unwell. I think she has these moments of, like, she thinks that they have a real, like, friendship connection or something like that. Like, you know, that's her parasocial relationship.
Yeah.
And she's very convinced that it's there sometimes. Other times, she is not. Paul finishes most of the book by writing it longhand, since the typewriter is just dead. Annie is getting lots of looky-loos. She even gets a reporter named Glenna Roberts from KTKA. I'm only mentioning that because I feel like any names that we get, I'm just trying to kick out there as often as possible in case we see them again.
My brain just went like, "Ka-da-caw." But actually what's in Ka, K-A, Ka.
That was the other thing. KTKA was such...
Yeah, because that's, I don't know, that is kind of weird, but at the same time, Ka is a wheel. Ka is such a big, like, recurring thing. Ka is basically fate in, like, throughout the Dark Tower world. That's a good catch.
Yeah.
That's something to hang on to. KTKA.
KTKA.
Huh. I don't think that's it could just be an Easter egg, but I don't think it's just an Easter egg.
Yeah.
That's too... I guess it depends on what happens with Glenna.
Nothing really. Annie, like, chases her off. She's like, get off my property. And Glenna's trying to, like, talk to her. They end up getting chased off, though, because Annie doesn't want to talk. Paul does come to the end of the book. He does go ahead and arrange to use the typewriter for the last little bits, and he'll just fill in the parts, especially because, like, his hand is horribly swollen from writing many chapters by hand. He has also named the typewriter. He's named it Ducky Daddles.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if it still is the voice of a gunslinger. That's a weird gunslinger name, but okay. You do you, man.
You think that. You won't think that anymore once you get into it. That actually is a pretty, like, my brain was trying to go, where have I heard that? Have I heard that? It's not going to be that weird. I promise you.
It's still one of those things, like, I'm mentioning all the names that I can.
No, that's fair.
For purposes.
No, it's good that you're mentioning it. I'm just letting you know. It's not weird for Stephen King to think a gunslinger should be Ducky Daddles. I don't think he's very good at names. That's why he reuses, like, the same 5 all the time.
There was also a not subtle bit about writing being, like, masturbating. It was oddly long for, like, how unnecessary
Stephen King is very, like, he has, like, a thing with masturbation. It comes up.
Yeah.
It really comes up. I don't know what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So that happened, and I think that's also a lot to do with his swollen hand.
Oh.
and why he like has to type the rest of it. Yeah, anywho, Annie's really excited because it's the last day because he's told her like, you know, today's the day when it's gonna be ready because like after some people had shown up, she's like, dude, we're running out of time. And he's like, 6 o'clock tomorrow.
What a deadline. Like, imagine being a writer, you have to make that deadline.
Yeah.
It's a deadline. But that's the noise. I don't know what the first one was.
It kind of sounds like a can opening.
That was my Pepsi.
And it is that excitement that actually makes Paul really see Annie as a person for one of the first and few times. And he's acknowledging that something is actually just wrong with Annie. It's also one of the first times he's not just kind of being a misogynistic dick about it, trying to prove that he's a real writer because people are overly critical of him. And he's being a person, Annie's being a person. And it was just nice. It's nice after all of the horrible fucking things this man thinks.
I do kind of feel like, I imagine if you're in that situation, you're probably in the worst headspace you could possibly be in, thinking the worst things you could possibly think.
What it is Annie actually acknowledges that she kind of got screwed on the typewriter deal and that she should have gotten him another machine. It goes on to say, she looked honestly sorry, tears stood in her eyes. Paul thought that the occasional moments like this were the most ghastly of all, because in them he saw the woman she might have been if her upbringing had been right, or the drugs squirted out by all the funny little glands inside her had been less wrong, or both.
Shit.
Yeah. It's a redeeming moment for the son of a bitch, because he thinks awful things, and it's just nice that he's acknowledging it's not just that she's this awful person.
Yeah.
She's an unwell person. He does ask Annie if they are preparing for a celebration, which she says, of course. He asked if she, as part of their celebration, if she would allow him one cigarette. Which she then goes into, like, how it will kill him, and he's just like, I don't really think that matters right now. And she does have to relate that he has a point.
Yeah.
It's not gonna matter. But the time comes. Basically, he made arrangements that he would get the cigarette beforehand because she didn't want to be around the smoke. She didn't like the smell of it. But that means he's got a nice cigarette waiting. He gets one match.
Better make sure you get that match the first time.
Uh-huh. So when the time comes, Annie does go to fetch the champagne because she got them, like, fancy champagne. She got them, like, I can't remember what else. It might have been something like caviar. Like, she went all out. They were having last meals.
Yeah.
Level celebration here. Because it is theirs, at least as far as she knows. When she comes back, Paul has the match lit. He's coated a manuscript in lighter fluid, and he's getting ready to burn it all. And Annie panics, does not want to see that this book gets torched. She goes to try and, like, save it because he drops the match. Everything gets caught on fire. She tries to put it out. She ends up catching on fire. And Paul dumps the typewriter on her head.
Oh, shit.
He is trying everything he can to make sure she is not getting up. She's not quite going on because she's a brick house.
Yeah.
At one point, they're struggling a bit, and he grabs, like, burning pages, shoves them down her throat, trying anything to fucking stop her from moving. She tries to get up a couple of times, but trips over the typewriter. And, like, I think it's the second time she trips, she ends up smacking her head on something. And that finally seems to be what kind of knocks her out for a bit. And she keeps, like, grabbing at his ankles as he's trying to crawl out, because he can't get into the wheelchair anymore at this point. He is like, crawling.
Yeah.
And he manages to get out of the bedroom. He's not really sure if she is still alive. She's passed out at the very least. He makes his way to the bathroom where the pain medication was. Takes some Novril and passes the fuck out. He wakes up, still in the bathroom. So if she is out there, she has not found him. Or she has left him in there on purpose. Unclear. He does kind of hope this means that she is dead. And David and Goliath come back. This time they got a warrant. Paul manages to get their attention. He is not even making sense as he is talking to them. Like, there's bits in here where he's thinking what he wants to say, but the words coming out of his mouth are just nonsense. And he actually does keep calling David. And the guy's just like, I don't know if I just reminded him of somebody named David that he knew. But
yeah,
he kept calling me David. And he does tell them that she's in the bedroom. She's in the spare room. And she may not be dead, so be careful. And they go and they check out the room and they find no body. And then we get to part 4.
Yeah, I was wondering if we'd made it there yet.
Yes. This is the part 4 is pretty short. It's nowhere near. It's the last little bit of the book. We actually see Paul return to the rest of the world, to New York. It turns out he did not burn Misery's Return. He just took a page that said Misery's Return, put it on a stack of paper. The actual book was hidden underneath the bed.
Oh.
So he got that. And his editor is thrilled because not only is the book getting lots of hype because of the story behind how the book happened, people are happy for the book to happen. And then there's also the desire for Paul to write the story of what happened.
Yeah.
He's able to really kind of go back to a very famous life, just without a foot or a thumb. And horrible trauma.
Oh, yeah.
He's going into like his apartment or something as he's finished all of his stuff up for the day after talking to his editor, who's still trying to push him to write the story of what happened to himself. And he comes into his apartment. He sees Annie, and she has appeared to finish the job. Only she hasn't. He is having flashbacks of her. It is revealed at this point that they found her body out by the barn. She was going for the chainsaw. And
jeez.
The head wound that she had suffered when she fell the second time from the typewriter is actually what killed her. None of the other things that happened. The head trauma is what ended up killing her.
I'm trying to wait because I have things to say about it being the typewriter, but
yeah. He will randomly just have these very vivid flashes of her back, and she's trying to kill him in all kinds of fucking ways. But it sounds pretty definitive that she died out by the pig Misery with her hands on the chainsaw, and she just couldn't make it back inside, but she like crawled out the window.
Jeez.
I will pause here so we can
talk
about the typewriter.
The fact that the typewriter was a gunslinger. Gunslingers are what they are in the other world is they are like warriors of the white. Like they are protectors. They like what they do is they like fight. They fight bad guys. They protect people who can't protect themselves. Mm-hmm. Right? Roland is like, he calls himself the last one. I think he is the last. But like before that, they were like this flourishing. They were like knights. In fact, like that'll be a whole thing. Like as we get into it, the fact that he in his head or this typewriter is possessed by a gunslinger was a protector of the innocent, and she seems to be like possessed by kind of alternate of the other side of. I think there's going to be a lot to talk about with that later, because the typewriter is what can finally take her out.
Yeah. And she keeps tripping over it, which seems like crazy. You've already tripped once. How do you trip again?
That's what got it in my head, that it's the typewriter. That's what gets her, that it keeps like coming for her, and it keeps him going.
Yeah.
And the story keeps him going. And this connection, like the other world, like keeps him going. Mm-hmm. That's why I said like the name, it's not that weird for a gunslinger. I think that's important because it is kind of a weird name for the kind of naming that this Paul dude does. Yeah. It doesn't sound like something that dude would come up with. It's not that weird for like the shit that Stephen King came up with for the people who live in places like Gilead.
Yeah.
Like, they just got random, like, apocalyptical shit. I think that's going to be really important to keep a hold of moving forward. because I think Ducky Daddles or whatever is maybe not as much of a construct. I think it's more important to the story than it seems. And I think that our kind of gut reaction with I keep saying it because I see the book there, but with, oh my God, we've been taught Annie. Fuck.
Annie.
Yeah, our gut with Annie and this idea that, like, it's not just that she's mentally screwed, but that she's this other, like, that there's this other thing going on with her, or maybe this, like, shine that's gone wrong, or this shine that's been, like, infected. I think that could also be something, like, if you reach out maybe with your shine to the wrong thing and the wrong thing gets in, or you let the wrong thing in, and it basically infects you. That's something that I think comes up in, like, the Talisman, that part of what they're, like, using with the alcohol or something. I can't remember, like, this alcoholic, like, potion or something that they use when they do the flip. It's almost like a protection or something as well. But I read that a very long time ago, and I could have that wrong. That could be part of, like, the alcohol shutting it down.
Yeah.
Or shutting down the shine as you're kind of trying to control it. It's trying to also keep things out that that would be attracted to your shine. And if she's born with this shine and then gets infected by something dark, because it's the way that it's every single other like you can practically count them off. It's every single other supernatural thing that comes up in a Stephen King book.
Yeah.
I feel like the chainsaw even comes up. I cannot think of where or what, but I feel like even the chainsaw is
the chainsaw stood out to me, and I don't know why, because, like,
is that Cujo?
I'm not sure. I haven't read Cujo.
I haven't either.
I've never watched that one, so I don't really know much about it other than a rabid dog.
Yeah, I don't either.
But it feels like it's not nothing. I just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah.
So,
or maybe it. I don't think so. I don't remember.
Maybe it is. It might have something to do with, like, something we saw in it.
I feel like in one of the, like, haunted houses, or one of the houses they go into, he's scaring them with a chainsaw, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't remember enough. It's not enough in my brain, and I could just be reaching because I want it there.
Yeah.
But I think that keeping note of all the different ways that she's killed, and then keeping that as we move forward, would be smart.
Yeah, I think that we'll at least have a misery page and maybe a whole Annie page. I'm not sure if we could fill a whole Annie page, but I do think that we can fill a misery page for sure.
Yeah.
The book comes to an end as Paul falls down into a hole on the page, and he starts writing his next book, which this was something I thought was interesting. This next book is based on a boy he saw walking the streets of New York with a skunk. And...
sorry.
I'm guessing it is a big deal. The character's name is Eddie Desmond. Okay.
I don't think so. I don't... Sorry.
And the part of the thing with the name being Eddie Desmond, and I think forgot to mention this sooner, is that there is actually a reference that it might be connected to it with Eddie Kasprick, because he mentions that his mom went to, like, Boston with a Mrs. Kasprick.
Okay.
So there's a lot of Eddie.
I think he's getting his... So there's also a possibility that this dude has a shine, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why this dark, like, Annie is pulling him in, right?
Yeah.
I think he's getting his people mixed up. And I think there's a possibility that he meant Eddie Dean, and who he saw or who he's writing about is actually Jake and a Billy Bumbler named Boy. Who are very important people in the Dark Tower. Okay. I don't think he meant a skunk. I think he meant a Billy Bumbler. And that Billy Bumbler is the best character ever. You are going to love Oy. Okay. You are going to absolutely love Oy. Like, I think you're going to love Eddie Dean. I think you're going to fucking love Oy. Stephen King found a way to make an animal a character, and you know how much I don't generally enjoy animal hijinks.
Yeah.
It's not animal hijinks. He's just a character, always the fucking best. But no, I can't.
You should have seen Taryn's face when I was saying the words, a boy with a skunk.
Yeah, Jake and Oi are like inseparable.
Like Paul says that like he was walking down the street and he sees a boy pushing like a skunk in a cage in like a shopping cart or something.
Yeah.
Up the street, and he asks the kid, "Is that a skunk?" And the kid's just like, "Yeah."
Yeah, I really doubt it might be. I could be really wrong. Oi would probably never be in a cage in a shopping cart. And Eddie, Desmond, and Eddie Dean aren't completely the same. But Eddie Dean and Jake, I can't remember Jake's last name now, aren't the same person, obviously. But I don't think the drawing of the three was out by now. And I don't think he'd made all those decisions yet.
Yeah.
And I think until we get into the actual Dark Tower books, it's hard to... I think this is like a proto...
Yeah.
Jake and Oi, to be quite honest. That's my opinion.
No, I think it's solid. And technically, yeah, no, in his little like section that we see of him writing from this new book, he does mention a skunk, but no, I think that's the point.
I feel like Oi gets confused for a skunk. I think he gets confused for other things more.
Yeah.
Though. I don't know that he gets confused for like, I don't remember, like, I don't remember. I just know he's a Billy Bumbler. It might be like a raccoon that he gets confused for more and stuff.
Yeah.
But Billy Bumblers are smart. And they talk a little bit sometimes, and they're like...
Fair.
They're the best. They're like Tanuki. Or they're like smart, like even smarter Tanuki. You're gonna fucking love Oi, I'm telling you.
Well, we gotta get there.
Oi is another very important part of the quartet, damn it.
The other interesting thing that popped up is that Paul lives in unit number 9E.
Of course he does.
Which means we get back to the, like, number 9, which Annie said was a powerful number. And then I feel like if you say 9E, it sounds a lot like 19.
Yeah, I will never remember why those numbers are important. I just know that they are.
Yeah, no, I just think it's interesting. And then the final thing is our sign-off, actually, because he ends this book writing down where he had been when he had started and the date, where he'd been when he'd finished it and the date. And the line after all of that is, "Now my tale is told," which stood out to me coming off of the Eyes of the Dragon, where it was always, "That's a tale for another day." Technically, in this book, it is a reference to this, like, tchotchke that Annie has of a little penguin that says, "And now my tale is told." But...
I'm making a face again. I just really love penguins. And that tchotchke sounds amazing.
So, it just... it doesn't feel like it's nothing to say that, to end that way. I still don't believe that Stephen King has revealed to us the story of the one guy.
No.
I don't know. I'm still waiting.
He's not going to be around forever either.
I guess one of his sons will just have to do it then. I did find out that Joe Hill, one of his books, I guess, actually references Pennywise, which is interesting.
Damn it, we can't add more books to the roster. We're going to be here forever as it is.
Which means we always have content.
I know, we already have to play the Alan Wake video games.
Yeah.
Actually, this book, I've been waiting for a way to work it in because this book specifically has made me so be like, we have to...
They did
like,
just
Alan
add the
Wake.
remastered to PS Plus.
Is it really on there?
Yeah, I pulled it. I haven't tried it yet, but
it's not on game. The remastered is not on Game Pass.
Yeah,
I want it so bad. It's on my gift list. I want it. The new one comes out later this year. I want to replay the old one and play it because they fixed a bunch of shit and they added some shit on remastered. And I do think I played the DLC. I want it. I didn't even know that it was Stephen King. I always thought it was more like Dean Koontz-ish. But then finding out that, like, he sold them their opening line and everything, and then hearing this shit, I'm like, oh, this is Alan Wake. You have to, when we're done recording this, you need to turn it on. While I cooked it, I'm not kidding. Turn it on. I'll sit and watch you play it, and I'll try to be quiet. It's so good. I'm not kidding. Like, you know how much I love BioShock?
Yeah.
Alan Wake is easily up there with BioShock. It's just hard.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard for me to play because I do not have the hand capabilities. I'm so happy they're making the new one survival horror because I'm good at those games. I'm okay enough that I can play those games. But this one's a lot, like, it takes more coordination, and to get everything in it, and all the page, I realize you're gonna have to cut all this, and I don't care. To get
We'll see what
the
I cut.
pages and stuff, you have to play through it and get Nightmare Mode, and then play all of Nightmare Mode, because you have to collect his pages of his book to get the whole story. But to get the whole story, you have to play all of Nightmare Mode, because there's pages you can't even get on the regular mode. And I could barely play it on beginner. I am not good, but I have to. And so I'm hoping Remastered made it easier for my dumb hands. And I need Remastered then, because it was like a 360 game.
Yeah.
I can't do that. It's so good. It's so good, but it makes me think, like, it probably is more like other shit, but there's parts of it makes me think of this so much. Like, he has this huge gap in his memory, and there's just so much. I can't, there's no way for me to tell you because you haven't played it, and I don't want to ruin it.
Okay.
It's not Misery, but there's aspects of it that are just similar, and this idea of, like, the light fighting the dark. I don't feel like we can move forward until you've played it, because it feels like it fits into the universe.
Well, I will definitely try and play it, but we're gonna have to move forward regardless.
Everybody else, you have to go play. If you have PS Plus, go play it. If you don't, try to play it if you have money. And if you don't have money, I understand. I can't do it either. So, but if you can, do it.
Well, at the very least, I am going to watch Misery. I'm not sure if you have decided if you will be joining me in attempting to watch the Kathy Bates, James Caan, I think that's his name.
I think because I know everything pretty much that happens, I'll probably, like, try.
Okay.
If it gets to be too much, I might bail in the middle.
That's fair. So we are going to attempt to watch Misery. We got it from the library. Support your local libraries.
Libraries are amazing. Like, you can get so much stuff, just borrow it for free.
Yeah, we got this and the 2 It movies. So,
and we just got the It movies for fun.
Yeah, we just like the It movies.
Yeah, they're just really good. Bill Hader's amazing. Just in general, like, not even just in the It movies. I just love Bill Hader. So
yeah, no, great movies. And I'm still horribly afraid of clowns, and it's an accomplishment that I can watch them.
Yeah, I'm very proud of you.
I still don't think I could watch the Tim Curry ones, despite my love of Tim Curry, but he just looks so much more clownish.
I think John Ritter's in those too.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Well,
he might be. No, he's the pudgy kid, I think, grown up.
Oh, okay.
Which, that's a shame. That's a real shame. I think that's who he plays.
I might try, but I don't know. I know that the pictures still look real creepy in that one.
I'm of the impression it's a lot more campy than it is scary. Bill Skarsgård plays it creepier, is the impression I'm under, than Tim Curry does. Tim Curry makes it like it's very not that way, but I can watch some clips if you want, and I can... We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
We've got the movie here, and I know, like, you mentioned, like, the way that this book was set up and with a play, and... At the time, I don't think I knew, but I actually read the back of this, and it was made into a stage play.
Was it really?
Yeah. Like, it mentions it on the back of the copy of the book that I have. Stage adaptation starring Bruce Willis and Laurie Metcalf. And there are still, like, stage performances going on.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, right?
Okay, but now I need Misery the musical. I'm sorry, if we can have Back to the Future the musical, I need Misery the musical.
Well, someone out there write us a musical.
There's going to be Dance Moms, the musical. Like, people are making that a thing on TikTok. We can have Misery, the musical.
If possible, if I can make it set up properly, I intend to attempt to record our reactions to Misery. Hopefully we will have actual, like, reaction recordings of us watching this movie. It's the first time either of us have ever seen it, and even just, like, looking at the picture of this, Kathy Bates is so fucking young. Like,
that's incredible.
It's so weird because she's so young.
Not as young as the cop.
Not as young as the cop. But I am looking forward to finally seeing this movie. After all of that, we are done with Misery, and we are going to finally go back to the Gunslinger and trying to keep reading that first chapter titled The Gunslinger. And we're optimistic that we might actually get further than a single sentence this time.
Maybe. I do foresee detours being even longer in the future, so...
The Stand.
I just meant long, like, more books, but yeah, The Stand.
The Stand.
The Stand.
It. The Talisman.
The Talisman has a sequel.
Black House.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, The Shining and Doctor Sleep.
Yep. Okay.
We're the Dark Tower adjacent as a podcast.
No, I mean, we're chaotically reading through Stephen King, and this, like, we already admitted this was just an excuse to read all of Stephen King.
Yeah, I mean...
In the most ridiculous manner we could.
We're not the ones who wrote it with all of these freaking references all over the place. No. We didn't write it this way. We didn't ask for it to be this way. We just made the decision to do a podcast this way.
Yep.
I think it's about that time again to deal with the episodic tarot reading. Last time we pulled 2 cards. Well, I pulled 2 cards. We as a pod pulled 2 cards. So not on purpose. The universe just gave us 2 cards in my hand. The Queen of Swords, which told us to use impartial judgment with intellect more than emotion. Sure. And then the second card we pulled was the Nine of Pentacles, which is a sign of independence and wealth. Enjoying the fruits of one's labor. So I'm expecting those tickets to Maine in the mailbox any day now. But we're gonna pull a card. We're gonna pull cards again. And we're gonna see what happens. I got 1 this time. The universe knows better than to give me mixed messages. And it is the Knight of Cups, not 9 of Cups, the Knight. Like a gunslinger, like a gentleman, the Knight of Cups.
The Knight is representative of someone who is in tune with his emotions. He will listen to his heart regardless of if it's logical or not.
Okay, so last time we were supposed to be unemotional. This time we need to be, like, in our feels. So for the gunslinger, we need to be in our feels, apparently.
That sounds like Roland.
It does not.
I don't know.
It doesn't sound like Roland at all.
He's always seemed very emo to me.
He looks very, very emo. I feel like there was a dramatic shift in Roland's character at some point, because I think you're right in the gunslinger, but then at some point he becomes, like, robotic. There's, like, this big shift where he started out, but I guess we'll see in the gunslinger, because I could be wrong. I was reading it again as a teenager who was deep in my feels. So I was feeling a lot of feelings, and he's really kind of the only character in that one. Yeah. But then you get more characters later, and so it's easier to be like, oh no, that's the feeling character. And then you don't have to try to put it on this one person anymore. That's
fair. I just, for some reason, I remember, like, I think he was sitting with Jake. Maybe he was sitting with the Man in Black around a fire, and he just seemed like he was complaining a lot.
Oh, that's not fair. He has a lot of feelings about Jake. That's different. Like,
and I'm just like,
He's a cowboy. He's allowed to have feelings at the fire. That's the only place. When he's, like, sitting at night at the fire, that's where he's allowed to have a feeling. But otherwise, he just, like, stares into the distance a lot, and then he tells people to, like, hurry up and talk, like, but with his hand. That's the only things that he could do.
Okay, fair
Like,
enough.
he has feelings about the Dark Tower and Jake, and that's like it.
Fire feelings.
Yeah, fire feelings. That's it.
Okay.
I mean, it's not, I think you're probably right. Like, he probably has more feelings than I remember, but he's described as unfeeling and stoic a lot, and then he has all the feelings, now that I'm thinking about it. He is very emo, but described as stoic, so...
Yeah, I just remember him being very emo.
God, that is a really good way, actually, to, like... I do feel like Roland probably would, like, lay there and listen to, like, My Chemical Romance and think about, like, things he's upset about a lot. It's because you're in his head, though. Like, from the outside, because he doesn't talk a lot.
Was he taken into the city when he was a young boy?
He actually probably was. Yes. That sounds accurate, yeah. Oh, shit, are we going to read the comics?
The Dark Tower comics?
Yeah.
If we can get a hold of them, I don't see any reason why not.
I know I have some of them in storage from when they were first coming out. I don't have all of them, though. I don't have, like, the Battle of Jericho Hill, and I don't have, like...
Might be able to at least get them on digital so we can read them in some capacity.
Because it's a bunch of stuff that's, like, not in the books. It's a bunch of, like, extra material. Like, we have to.
Yeah, no,
I feel like...
that's part of the trajectory.
We're never getting to book 5 because that's all stuff that's going to end up referenced in Wizard and Glass. So we're never getting to Salem's Lot. Because it's all referenced in his backstory. And that's the other thing, is the other book that came out that you and your dad gave me on Kindle for, like, my birthday or Christmas, The Wind...
Through the Keyhole?
Yeah, The Wind Through the Keyhole. That's also... I think that's referenced in Wizard and Glass. And if it's not Wizard and Glass, it's the book before it. It's in number 3. But because that came out so much later, I totally forgot about it until, like, the other day. We're never getting to Salem's Lot. It's never happening. We're never making it to book 5. Because Wizard and Glass references his life before everything else. So all the supplementary material is about that. So it's all book 4. Like, it's like an endless purgatory
that we've put ourselves in.
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's being human. Self-sabotage is, I mean, the most human thing I think you can do. Roland knows.
I was gonna say this. I was trying not to say it again. I was trying not to start it again.
Well, I think we can take our beans elsewhere now.
We can at least stop recording them. Oh my god. Seems like a good night to do that misery watch, though.
Yeah, it does.
We're so full of beans.
We might do misery tonight.
Maybe. We might.
So, if you listen to that and it's a continuation, you already know what you're in for. Sorry.
Yeah. Go now. There are other worlds than these. Or this. Go before the beans get you.
You can follow us on Instagram at ManyConstantWorlds. You can also DM us if you have any thoughts, questions, things you'd like to put out there. You can email us at manyconstantworlds@gmail.com.